Welcome to the UiPath webinar. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Param Kalon. I am the Chief Product Officer at UiPath. I'm also joined today with Professor Mary Lassity. Professor Mary Lassity is a thought leader in the robotics process automation space. She has published many books in robotics process automation and cognitive automation. She is also the Walton Professor and the Director of the Blockchain Center of Excellence at Sam Walton College of Business at the University of Arkansas. Thank you very much for joining us, Professor Lassity.
Oh, Param, thank you so much for having me. I'm delighted to be here.
So Mary, first of all, you have a new book on robotics automation. Please tell us a little bit more about the book.
Indeed, we do have a new book out. So this is our third book on robotic process automation, and I want to give a shout out to my co-author, Professor Leslie Wilcox at the London School of Economics. And we really began our journey of researching RPA in 2014, and so we've been publishing a book a year because it's changing so rapidly. So we're very proud of this new book, as it, for the first time, also includes cognitive automation case studies and the integration of robotic process automation with cognitive automation.
So at UiPath, we consider cognitive automation to be a core part of robotic process automation. In your experience, where do you see organizations are, when we look at the maturity cycle of cognitive processes and automation as part of the robotics process?
Okay, so let me give you a little bit of background about our case study, so that'll help answer your question. So when we began this journey 4 years ago, it was very easy to find organizations that had already successfully deployed robotic process automation, and most of those adoptions happened either in global shared services or in finance or in other back offices. Then at a whole different part of the organization was the cognitive automation technologies, typically in like R&D centers or innovation centers. And so that was sort of happening and developing separately from the RPA. And just in the last year, we're starting to see the marrying of these different service automation technologies. So it's really recent, and I would say that cognitive automation is still immature and evolving rapidly compared to RPA. But RPA is pretty proven meat and potatoes technology that you'll get good business value out of.
Excellent, excellent. Now, in your research, tell us, from all the customers that you've talked to, tell us what are the critical success factors of a successful RPA project? Okay,
so I always like to start with the journey's destination. So what do you want to end up with? So we talk a lot about the triple win of value that organizations can get from their RPA deployments. So we're looking for value for shareholders, and that's not just ROI, return on investment. We're also looking at things like agility and better compliance and scalability and those sorts of things. Then we're also looking for customer value. So you can really use RPA to help enhance your customer journeys and to give them better service. And then finally, which is the big surprise that came out of our research, is RPA can really enhance the quality of your employees' job satisfaction. So you had mentioned at the beginning, what does UiPath do? You said we take away the mundane work. Our big tagline that actually came from my co-author, Leslie Wilcox, is that RPA takes the robot out of the human. And what we mean by that is it takes the robotic mundane tasks and liberates your workforce to do the jobs that you intended them to do. And so that's what the real destination that you're looking for, the triple win of value, shareholders, customers, and employees. And we've got lots of companies that have been able to get that. But it's not automatic, right? It doesn't happen automatically. So you have to really manage your adoption journey. So our tagline is really that you have to think strategically about this at the beginning, then you have to start right, and then I'm going to use the term institutionalize fast. I don't like to say scale fast. You hear that from a lot of advisors because people only think about the technology. And what we mean by institutionalizing robotic process automation is putting all of the change management in place, defining your governance, making sure your robotic workforce stays robust, adapts to changes in your business rules, et cetera. So it's a long journey that you have to manage from the beginning, but you can get a lot of value if you do it correctly.
Now, I have another question for you. When I talk to our customers today, they're curious about where where to start their RPA journey and what roadmap should they take in extending it. I'm curious from your research, what have you seen for customers that are successful with RPA initiatives?
Okay, no, it's a great question. And the good news for anyone starting their journey is there's so many lessons already learned, so they don't have to reinvent the wheel. There are plenty of resources, our books included, and there's plenty of strategic partners that can also help launch a good, solid RPA journey. So they don't have to go it alone is probably my first message. The second message really is they have to have a bigger vision for what these toolkits can do, and so they need to think strategically about their service automation journeys and going after the triple win for the shareholders, your clients, and your employees.
Mary, do you have an example from your work with customers and where customers generally begin their RPA journey?
Yes, so usually they're trying to address a problem that their existing technology platforms don't happen. So in our early adopters, a lot of them began in global shared services. And that's a good place to start your RPA journey, because typically what happens with global shared services is they are understaffed and they get more and more work that they're expected to do. And RPA was helping them deliver on their missions in global shared services. We also see a lot of companies start in back offices, so that could either be in finance or in accounting. But really my main message that I want to say is that RPA is a general purpose tool. So it's designed to help automate any kind of task where the data is structured, you can define rules, and you want deterministic outcomes like, yes, pay your invoice, or no, don't pay this invoice, it's a duplicate. So I wouldn't say that there's only one place that you can think about deploying it. There's a large swath of processes that you can deploy RPA to.
Totally agree. This is what our experience has been. Customers generally start in one area of the function, like the finance and operations or shared service centers, and then take that success and repeat it across other parts of their business. And
it's not just that they're pushing it out. What happens is those back office or shared services get the attention of senior management because they're getting this triple win, and then sales and marketing goes, well, what about us? You know, what can we do? And we start to see the evolutions of things like Center of Excellence to help seed RPA and other service automation technologies throughout the entire organization.
So Mary, we consider cognitive skills to be a core component of process automation. Where do you see this in terms of adoption and maturity cycle with the customers that you've talked to? Okay, so as a professor, let me at least give a definition what we mean. We don't like to use the term AI because we think it kind of mystifies and sets false expectations about what the computer's doing. So we like to use the term cognitive automation. And we define that as any sets of tools that use inference-based processes rather than those rules like if then else on typically unstructured data. So typically you're talking about text data, conversations, you're talking maybe images or sounds, etc. And then producing probabilistic outcomes. Like I think the customer is asking me this. Right. So the real challenge with cognitive automation tools is really the data. So up front, customers really need a lot of good training data with labeled examples, and so that's what's taking a little bit longer with the cognitive automation tools. But we're seeing in the last year a great integration. So let's just give an example of a typical RPA. So at the beginning, we said you have to have structured data. Well, that's not how organizations get structured data. It doesn't come in that way. Right. You got customers calling on the phone, you got text, and right now we've got people sitting in some kind of delivery center just mundanely trying to structure this data to feed to RPA. So the next thing we're going to see with cognitive automation is a better way that you can figure out the intake in natural language so that you can feed your RPA to execute your processes on the back end. So that's what we're seeing in our research. What are you guys seeing at UiPath? So what we're seeing at UiPath is essentially very similar patterns. If you look at our customers, they essentially tell us that 80 to 90% of the data that they can reason over is unstructured data. How do they actually reason over that data to drive more and more automation across other parts of their business as well? And what's also really important in the life cycle of a cognitive process or a cognitive decision that a machine learning algorithm makes is to be able to provide human input into the model so that it can continue to improve that model. So I think we're also focused on ensuring that when a robot gets to a stage and is able to make a prediction, but it's not, the confidence level isn't as high as the threshold companies are able to accept, we're able to take that, process and send it to a human that can now provide input to go ahead and improve their model and drive more automation for more processes within an organization.
Yeah, so you can think about your software robot as like a digital worker, right? And it's above their pay grade to make some of these decisions, right? So you need a more experienced human being to come in to finalize some of the paths in their decision making.
And the digital worker continues to learn as the more advanced human worker makes the decision, so that next time they see a pattern that's similar to the decision that was made, now they can have a higher confidence to make the decision themselves.
Absolutely. And some of our early adopters, we saw the proficiency of some of the cognitive automation tools. Initially, they're pretty low. Maybe they get about 60%. But then through continual retraining, exposing it to new examples, having that human come in and say, this is what you're actually looking at, we can see proficiencies increase pretty rapidly over about a 6-month period.
That's fascinating. We think that this whole cognitive automation will significantly enhance the role that process automation can play in an enterprise.
Okay, but I'm also going to tell you one little warning sign when you're an adopter. I think it's really important whether your cognitive automation tool is working with an internal employee or working with one of your external customers, that you signal, hey, this is a tool, we're not pretending it's a human being, it's learning, it's not going to be 100% proficient. So you test cognitive automation very differently than RPA, right? RPA, you can create those use cases and test every logical sequence that you've programmed.
It's deterministic.
It's deterministic, right? But with cognitive automation, you're in these labs thinking, we got this. This is how the employee is going to interact with this, how our external customers are going to act, and you're always wrong. So you have to put it in as a live experiment. Hey, we're trying. It's going to get better over time with your feedback.
Many of our customers are able to add significant capacity to their workforce with our technology. What are some of the outcomes that you're seeing with RPA initiatives?
And that's really where the main source of value is. We call it about hours back to the business. What is the excess labor capacity that you're giving to the organization through your service automation technologies? And then it's really up to the business to say, what am I going to do with this great gift you just gave me, right? Am I in a growth mode and I need to take on more services without hiring proportionally more people? Am I going to address this backlog of work that's been sitting here that I wanted to do? Or am I going to redeploy my talent to more value-added tasks? So it's a gift you give back to the organization, and it's up to that organization to figure out what they're going to do with the gift you gave them.
Thank you very much for joining us today. If there are 3 key takeaways, what would they be?
Okay, I'm going to say you think strategically, and what I mean by that is that triple win for shareholders and for your employees and for your customers. Then I'm going to say you need to start right. And so what I mean by that is you've got to select the right partners to help you on your journey. There's plenty of them out there. You have to select the right tools. You have to prioritize and select the right projects. And then you have to put the right internal structures and getting your governance right and your shareholder buy-in to deliver on the triple win. And then I'll say the third thing is really you constantly have to be innovating. So RPA is not the end of the story. So you're looking next at how you're going to integrate cognitive automation. And again, my big passion now is blockchains, and how is that going to have implications for what we're doing today? So it's constant innovation, constant looking ahead.
Mary, thank you very much for joining us today. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Me too, Pram. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Audience, thank you very much for joining us as well, and I hope you enjoyed the conversation as much as I did.